The wedding photos were still on the mantel when the divorce papers landed on the kitchen counter. Unsigned, but cold as ice. He hadn't said a word. Not when she cried on their anniversary, not when she stayed up all night waiting for him to come home, and certainly not when the rumors started swirling about another woman. In the world of high-stakes business, where love is just another liability, she was collateral damage, quiet, devoted, forgotten. But what no one knew, not even the cold CEO himself, was that this so-called innocent wife was about to flip the entire boardroom upside down. In this unforgettable story, you'll witness a marriage built on image and shattered by silence, a wife who gave everything and got nothing back, a boardroom betrayal that changes everything, and a twist even the coldest CEO never saw coming. At the conclusion of the story, please answer the following quiz question. How many times is the name Elena Kim mentioned throughout the narrative? It's just for fun. It's our way of saying thanks for watching closely and spotting the subtle moments others might miss. If you answer correctly within the first 7 days after this story is posted, your name might appear in our shoutout post. Even if you're watching late, go ahead and answer. We read every comment, and you might get a surprise shoutout anyway. If this story moves you, drop a comment, hit like, subscribe now, and turn on the bell to keep the stories coming your way. The city never slept. Neither did the hallway light in the penthouse apartment, which stayed on every night, a silent beacon of hope, waiting for someone who never looked back. Elena Kim used to wait by that light every night, wearing the cardigan he once said he liked, reheating dinner she knew he wouldn't eat. The man she married, Jinwoo Seo, the celebrated CEO of Orion Industries, was more ghost than husband now. His eyes scanned stock reports faster than they ever met hers. His hands, once soft with affection, were always gripping a phone or a pen. Never hers. To the public, they were the perfect couple, a K-drama in real life. To Elena, it was a slow unraveling. Each business trip extended by a few more meetings. Each public appearance staged like a red carpet war zone. Each silence louder than the last. But she held on. Because love, to Elena, was not a performance. It was vows, and she meant hers. Still, the cracks grew. A whispered name at a gala, Minji from PR, an unfamiliar perfume on his collar, and the final straw, a company gala invitation, addressed to him +1, with no mention of her. She didn't cry, not that night. She simply stared at the invite, the ivory cardstock trembling in her hand like it was a death certificate. That's when she made the decision, not to leave, but to rise. Elena had spent 5 years supporting Jinwoo's empire, quietly fixing his calendar, advising his team behind the scenes, rewriting speeches that won over investors. She wasn't just a wife. She was the secret weapon he never acknowledged. Until the day she walked into the boardroom, not in silence, not in shadows, but in full command. The company was flailing from a sudden crisis. A data breach had left investors furious, and the press circling like sharks. Jinwoo, cold and controlled as ever, tried to steer the ship. But the team was lost, spiraling. That's when Elena stepped in, not as a wife, but as a strategist. "Your communication plan is outdated," she said flatly. Everyone turned, even Jinwoo. He blinked like he'd seen a ghost. "You're exposing the board to liability with every vague statement. The damage isn't just digital, it's reputational, and you're bleeding trust." She didn't flinch. The room froze. Elena continued. She outlined a full crisis comms plan, mapped the stakeholder landscape, proposed rapid response protocols with language only someone inside the system could possibly know. Because she was inside. She'd always been. Jinwoo said nothing, but he didn't stop her. That silence for Elena wasn't validation. It was confirmation. Confirmation that he knew. He knew she'd been there all along, watching, listening, contributing from the shadows, and chose not to see her. Not really. When she finished, the boardroom was still. Then someone clapped. A slow, reluctant clap from Mr. Daniels, the oldest board member. Others followed. And yet Jinwoo just stared at her. "Elena," he finally said, voice calm, too calm. "This isn't your place." Her lips parted, but no words came. Not because she didn't have them. She had plenty. But because his tone wasn't angry. It was dismissive, like she was a child interrupting grown-ups. "I came here to help," she replied evenly. "I didn't ask you to," he said. The room recoiled, not because of the volume, there wasn't any, but because of the ice in his voice. It cut through layers no one in that room dared touch. Elena nodded once, slowly. Her throat was tight, but she held her posture. "Then I'll leave you to it," she said. "Good luck." She turned, heels silent on the polished marble floor, and walked out. Not a single glance back. She wouldn't give him that. But as the boardroom door shut behind her, she paused in the hallway. She had entered as his wife. She exited as something else entirely. And she knew now, this wasn't about saving their marriage. It was about saving herself. Back in the apartment, silence wrapped around her like wet fabric. The hallway light was still on, as always. She turned it off. In the days that followed, Jinwoo didn't come home. Not that it surprised her. He had mastered the art of quiet exits. But what did surprise her was the message. It was from the company's legal team. "Mrs. Essio, please find attached a non-disclosure agreement pertaining to your appearance during the recent internal crisis meeting." There was more. Legal jargon, veiled threats, a sentence about proprietary information, a reminder of the sensitive nature of her involvement. But all she saw was the name, Mrs. Seo. He still let them call her that. Her hands trembled as she set the phone down. Her title didn't matter anymore. He was erasing her, slowly, politely, officially, and still. She didn't cry. 3 weeks passed. The press called it a miraculous recovery for Orion Industries. Stocks rebounded. Investors regained confidence. A memo leaked, hinting at new strategy, bold leadership. But no one mentioned her. Not even Jinwoo, until the envelope arrived. No stamp. Just a white envelope slipped under her door. Hand delivered. Inside, one sheet of thick paper. His handwriting, impeccable. 5 words. "Thank you for your insight." No name, no apology, just cold acknowledgement. Elena stared at the note for a long time. Then she folded it once, placed it in the trash, and pressed it down until it crumpled. He wanted to play diplomat? Fine. She would play survivor. What no one knew, what even she didn't fully realize until now, was how much she had buried for him. The job offers she declined. The speaking engagements she turned down. The book draft she never finished because he said, "Now's not the right time." Every little dream packed away like old clothes, all to keep space for his. But now, Elena began unpacking. She reopened her laptop, dusted off her LinkedIn, reconnected with a former editor, sent out one pitch, just one, about corporate silence and emotional abandonment. It got picked up, then syndicated. She didn't use names. She didn't need to. The tone spoke louder than titles. The world responded. Across the city, Jinwoo sat at his desk, scanning the article on his second screen. He didn't blink, didn't flinch, but he read every word. And for the first time in a long time, he felt something. Not guilt, not regret. Something colder, control slipping. He clicked his pen once, twice. Then he picked up his phone and called the head of PR. "Monitor this. If it escalates, we act." "Understood," the voice replied. He hung up, and for a second, looked toward the window. The skyline stretched beyond, glittering with lights and lives he'd never touched. Somewhere in that sprawl was Elena, and for the first time, he wasn't sure if she'd still pick up the phone. But Elena wasn't waiting by a phone anymore. She was at a cafe in Brooklyn, finalizing the outline of her new podcast. After Silence, a show exploring stories of women who were never officially silenced, just made invisible. The teaser episode went live 2 days later. The response was overwhelming. Messages poured in. Women in boardrooms, stay-at-home mothers, doctors, bartenders, even a retired judge. All of them had stories. All of them said the same thing. I thought I was the only one. Elena read every message, every story, and with each one, her voice grew louder. Then came the panel invite. A major women's leadership conference, last-minute keynote dropout. Could Elena Kim step in? She said yes, not out of spite, but because someone had to speak. And now, she was finally ready. The day of the event, she stood backstage adjusting her mic. She wore navy, structured, clean, no wedding ring. The host introduced her as a rising voice in corporate emotional truth-telling. She stepped on stage to polite applause. Then she spoke the first sentence. I used to be called the CEO's wife, until I remembered I had a name. The room erupted. Jinwoo watched the live stream. From his office, alone. He didn't move. He didn't even sip the coffee beside him. Just watched. And finally understood something. She was no longer his story. She was her own. That night, Elena received another letter. Same handwriting, same crisp paper. This time, just one line. You were right. She folded the letter slowly, almost gently, not with affection. Not with anger, just clarity. She tucked it in the back of her journal, and for the first time in years, she wrote his name at the top of a page. Not because she missed him, but because she needed to finish the story. Some stories don't end with a final sentence. Some stories loop, tangle, fester. Elena stared at the page with his name, Jinwoo Seo, scrawled in her precise cursive. Her pen hovered, but the words didn't come. Because underneath all the clarity and the rage and the newfound freedom was still something else. Not love, not anymore, but residue. Like smoke that clings to your hair long after the fire's out. 2 weeks later, Elena's podcast hit its 3rd millionth stream. A major publishing house called. A book deal was on the table. She should have felt triumphant. But instead, she felt restless. Because now that she was finally being seen, everyone wanted a piece of her. Her pain, her story, her marriage, especially her marriage. Producers pitched documentary ideas. Editors suggested chapters that dissected life with the cold CEO. And publicists asked the same question in different ways. Are you ready to tell the truth about him? But what they really meant was, will you sell him out? And every time, Elena hesitated. Not out of loyalty, that had burned to ash, but because she knew something none of them understood. He was already punishing himself, just not in ways anyone could see. Jinwoo didn't chase her, not in the airport terminal way, not in flowers on the doorstep way. He didn't believe in grand gestures. He never had. What he did believe in, and had built his entire life upon, was control. And slowly, day by day, he was losing it. Not just in the media, not just in the market, but internally, inside the office. Whispers traveled faster now. Junior execs left his meetings with confused glances and unspoken concerns. His assistant started asking him to loop in legal before issuing public memos. And then one day, a subtle shift. His favorite board member, Daniels, requested a private lunch. The same Daniels who once clapped for Elena. During dessert, Daniel sipped his espresso and said quietly, "You should take some time. Reflect. Let the heat die down." Jinwoo blinked. "Are you asking me to step aside?" "I'm suggesting," Daniel said with care, "that when the fire reaches your shoes, standing still is rarely wise." Jinwoo didn't respond, but his hand tightened around the silver spoon. Elena, meanwhile, stood at a crossroad of her own. The publishing house wanted a full manuscript within 3 months. Her agent wanted her next podcast season to launch in 6 weeks. The conference circuit wanted her everywhere at once. She should have been thrilled. Instead, she felt fragmented. Because her story, the one everyone wanted her to share, was incomplete. Not because she hadn't told the truth, but because he hadn't. Late one evening, as rain tapped gently against her apartment window, Elena opened her email to find an unexpected subject line. Re-closure. No name, just the word. She opened it. Inside were 4 sentences. "You were never invisible. I just couldn't handle being truly seen. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed you to know. Your silence was never weakness. It was grace I didn't deserve." There was no signature, but she knew. He didn't have to sign his name. The ache in her chest was signature enough. She stared at the screen, breathing slowly, until the cursor blinked her back into the present. She didn't reply. Not yet. The next day, Elena went to her therapist, a habit she had returned to after years of shelving her own healing for his reputation. She read the email aloud, voice steady. The therapist asked gently, "What did you feel when you read it?" Elena didn't answer right away. Then she said, "Like I've been waiting years for him to say something, and now that he has, I feel nothing." The therapist nodded. That's progress. But Elena wasn't so sure, because nothing felt worse than anger, worse than heartbreak. It felt like the final erasure, not of her worth, but of the hope that maybe, just maybe, they could have saved something. A week later, at a live taping of her podcast, a young woman stood during the Q&A. Her voice trembled. "How do you forgive someone who never asks for forgiveness the right way?" Elena smiled gently. "You don't," she said. "You forgive for yourself. And sometimes, forgiveness doesn't look like reconciliation. Sometimes it looks like never answering the door again, even when they finally knock." The crowd clapped, but inside, something pulled. Because what if she needed to open that door one last time? Not for him, but for her? That night, she walked past her old neighborhood, past the building they once lived in. The hallway light was on. Her heart paused. She kept walking, then stopped, then turned around. She wasn't going to knock. She just wanted to see, just wanted to know. But as she stepped into the lobby, a man exited the elevator. It was him. Jinwoo. He froze. She froze. No one spoke. They hadn't stood this close in 5 months. 5 months and 12 days. His hair was longer, her shoulders straighter. He didn't smile. She didn't flinch. "Elena," he said finally. Just her name, no apology, no monologue. "I read your book proposal," he added quietly. "It's powerful." She nodded once. "Thanks." Silence stretched between them, not heavy, just brittle. Then she asked softly, "Why now?" He looked down at the floor, then back up. "Because I thought I could win without you. And now, I'm not sure what winning even means." She didn't respond, just looked at him. Then, finally, said, "That's not something I can help you figure out." And with that, she walked past him. No hug, no tears, no turning around. But as the elevator doors closed behind her, her chest rose sharply. Because that moment was the ending she didn't know she needed. Some breakups come with slammed doors, others come with silence so thick it rewrites who you are. Elena didn't get revenge. She didn't get closure wrapped in a bow. But she got something better, herself. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away without looking back, and still know your worth didn't leave with them. And now, it's your turn. If this story moved you, we'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below with where you're watching from, and don't forget to answer the quiz. If you get it right within 7 days of this video being posted, your name might appear in our official shoutout post. Even if you're watching late, go ahead and answer, and you might get a surprise shoutout anyway. And if you love this kind of emotional story, the next one is already waiting for you. Click the video that show on your screen soon. We'll meet you there. Like, subscribe, and turn on the bell, because we're just getting started. Quiz. How many times did we mention the name Elena Kim in this story?